Nope. Yep. Nope. Yep.
Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of Devil Feature Versus. I am Black Cinephile.
I am AKA Brad.
That is AKA Brad. And today we have a great one, man. This is one that's kind of been in the making for a while. But we got two classic David Fincher films going head to head. We have two of his arguably best films. We got Se7en versus Zodiac.
Yes. And yeah, this has been one of those episodes we've kind of toyed with because I can't remember if it was you or myself that brought it up of doing an episode with Se7en. And then it was like, well, we got to pair Zodiac with it then. That's just how it works.
I think at first we were like, okay, if we're doing Fincher, then let's do Fight Club. But I'm like, I think one of us was like, Fight Club doesn't pair well with Se7en because it's a Fincher film, but it's not a Fincher thriller.
Right. It's a different kind of Fincher movie where it's a lot harder to do the comparison for it.
For sure. I'm excited for this one, man. So how you want to do this?
So thinking on this one because Se7en was one of like Fincher's big breakout movies. Mm-hmm. I think it means more to start with that one.
Okay. You mind if I take over Se7en? You do Zodiac?
I'll let you take over Se7en.
All right, man. Ooh, 7 Deadly Sins, boy. Let's go. All right. So Se7en is a thriller about two detectives. One is a veteran, kind of on his way out of the game, and one is a rookie, new to the game. So you have Detective Somerset, which is Morgan Freeman, and Detective Mills, who was Brad Pitt. They are hunting down a serial killer that kills his victims based off the 7 deadly sins. So if you know the 7 deadly sins, gluttony, greed, sloth, envy, pride, wrath, lust, he kills all of his victims based off these sins. They don't know who this guy or gal is, and basically he or she is a John Doe right now. And so they're trying to figure out, the whole film is them trying to discover who this killer is, but also about Detective Somerset kind of trying to warn or like not shelter, but kind of trying to be a mentor to Detective Mills and let him know, listen, man, this job drains you. Like this job catching sick people, it drains you. And
because they're homicidal, detectives on the police force. So they literally see the worst of the worst when it comes to murders and psychopaths and crime scenes.
Yeah. And Detective Mills, David, I'll just call him David. David has a wife, Tracy, played by Gwyneth Paltrow. And basically Morgan Freeman tells him, like, listen, man, you're having a wife in this kind of business, you're not going to be distracted with home. Like this job is going to take you over. Like it's going to take over your soul is basically what he tells him. And basically that's the clear-cut synopsis of this film. It's a simple plot, but it's not told. It's no way told in a simple way. Like, yeah, the details with which Andrew Kevin Walker, who wrote the script, takes in with his characters and the way David Fincher brings that to life with the grim atmosphere makes this one of the best thrillers of all time.
Oh, absolutely. The fact that, you have the 7 deadly sins as a main theme for all the murders and everything. Mm-hmm. And they're done in such gruesome ways that it's insane. Like you have and I love how each of the people later when we find John Doe, we never find out his real name in the movie. He's still referred to as John Doe throughout the entire thing. Yeah. And when we finally, get to talk to him and find out his motives, he basically sees himself as a god or a messenger of God to, make sure that everybody realizes that they're full of sin. And he does so by finding this person that is he's a shut-in, completely obese, and he uses him as the example for gluttony by force feeding him until his stomach explodes. Right. The one for lust is he found a prostitute and basically forced a person to murder them.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, that one's gruesome.
I love how that scene is played out. Like I love how they tease that. Like the guys in the I think he's either in the club, but they're talking. The guy who did it, he's either in the club or they're talking to him. You see just sweat. You see him just look like kind of just disturbed, and they go like what happened here? And
no, he's screaming, "Get it off of me! Get it off of me!"
Right.
Yeah.
And I like how piece by piece Fincher kind of explains to you what happened through certain images and through certain like shots. And I like, wow. I like that's how you build a tense scene.
Yeah. Because you know that it's something gruesome, and then it's like, okay, so this person survived, and it's like, no, he wasn't the target. He just was involved with it. And this is such a great movie when it comes to like the creativity behind it and the way that they present the information, because they don't feed you the information right away. They kind of build it up a little bit to where you find it, because I think the movie starts with them coming to a crime scene for a lawyer, and they just find the word greed written in blood on the floor. And it doesn't lead to much until they find the note that says gluttony at the one person's apartment behind the fridge. And then just from there, they're on the track to find out all these people. So yeah, with gluttony, I love how basically they tried to be as gruesome as possible with it by finding the people that he deemed worthy of it. You know, and I absolutely love the behind the scenes of this movie, where they kind of go, or not the behind the scenes of the movie, but like being able to see how the detectives are trying to solve this and everything like that, and getting close and closer to John Doe to the point that they actually find his apartment, and they basically have him on the run, and then he manages to turn the tables on the detectives and completely blindside them again, and showing that he is a smart person, and even when they're talking to him, first off, we have John Doe played by Kevin Spacey, which
out of nowhere,
yes,
which is so clever on the film's part, because his name doesn't show up in the credits until the end.
Yes. Yeah, he was kind of a secret addition to the movie, and he played the role absolutely fantastically as well. As a psychopath that believes himself to be a messenger of God.
Yeah, he is one of his best roles. Yeah, definitely. I want to say before I talk more in depth about the whole John Doe climax, because that whole climax is just perfect in the way it's constructed. The dynamic between David and Freeman, what was his name? David and Somerset.
Yeah.
So I like how this film injects humor in the little ways that it can. Like there's a scene where they come to a door, and William's like, we can't get in this door. We gotta come back or something. And David just kicks it down like, yeah, we can get in now.
Yeah, that was at his apartment, and that was, we can't go in here. We don't have any evidence. We don't have a warrant. We don't have anything.
Right.
What's going to happen when they ask us why we're here? And he's like, yeah, you're right. And they just blast the door down.
But it's that scene is so telling, because it shows that Somerset has been through some things. He's seen some things. And David is new on the block, and he's like, look, we can make our own rules. This guy is a monster. We need to take him down. It foretells the ending so perfectly, because it's like David has no idea what he's bringing himself into with this job, and how it can really corrupt him, as we see in the terrific, devastating ending. Like even when they first meet, Brad is like, he's loose. He's like, all right, who's the bad guy? Who we taking down? And Morgan is like, he's smooth. He's like, listen, slow your roll. This job, I pretty much said, this job corrupts you. Don't let it, do the job. Don't let the job do you, pretty much.
Yeah, he's basically a foot out the door for retirement, and this is all being thrown at him, and he's like, I don't want to deal with this. Like at the beginning when they're dealing with gluttony, he basically is going, I don't want this case. I want nothing to do with this. And when they're getting little bits of information, he's still like, don't give it to me. Give it to the new guy. I don't want anything to do with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dude, oh man, that climax, dude. The build up is so great because even when they're in the car and they're driving, and and this is Kevin was great in this scene, Brad was great in this scene, Morgan just with his facial reactions was great. When Kevin Spacey's in the back seat and he's doing what you're saying, thinking he's a god, I'm carrying out a message, and Brad Pitt like just totally destroys him, like, dude, you're a freak show. You're a movie of the week. You're not doing anything. Like you think people worship you or look to you like as a leader, and you can see the anger in Kevin Spacey's face, like that he's like being like told off by this detective who, as we learn, what he did to him, it's not going the way he wants it to go at this moment.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he thinks he's completely in control during the conversation until Mills starts, giving him back and going, "Look, you're not as special as you think you are. You're just a psycho. You're just like every other psychopath out there. And do you realize that you're a psycho while you're doing this, or do you actually think that you're so deep in your own ego that you're a good person and you're doing what's right?" And
I love that scene, dude.
Oh, it's such a great conversation, because not only that, but you have like Somerset just standing by and like watching it happen as they're driving along, and it keeps flashing to him like looking in the rearview mirror at John Doe, and kind of looking over at Mills and then back to the road. He's just silent while Mills is just doing this entire thing, and it's such a great scene. Basically, as soon as they capture John Doe, and this movie just ranks up from in terms of the thrills 100%. It goes from being that mystery movie to a pure thriller where you have somebody that thinks they're smarter than everybody else locked in the backseat of a car, and two detectives that think that they finally finished this case.
Yeah. Pretty much. Because you got the killer. Where do you go from here? But I love how, even though Brad got the best of him in that car, it's that final climax where we realize that John Doe has the best of Mills. Because I love how this film says so much about humanity. And in that moment, you got Somerset, that this is still a guy who goes by the book. He feels Mills. He understands why Mills is angry. It's that meme-worthy moment. What's in the box?
Yeah. What's in the box?
Like, yeah, like what's in the box? And Morgan's like, David, David, he made you a suspect, or he said something like that. But his wife's head was in the box, bro. And it's like you see the flashes of Gwyneth Paltrow's face, and you see Brad just break down, like, oh no. And you're like the audience, you're like, waste this motherfucker. Waste him.
Shoot him right now. Shoot him. You have the gun already pointed there. Just pull the trigger.
Yeah, man. That was rough, dude. And you got Somerset again, who plays by the book, going, don't do this, man. And it's not even about going to jail. It's the fact that he doesn't even realize he's playing into so what was
into
the
John
Doe's plan. So what sin was he in the end? Was it wrath?
In the end, John Doe was envy, because he was envious of the life that Mills had.
Right.
Because it was a life that he would never be able to have himself. And Mills was wrath, because he was wrathful over the things that John Doe had done.
Yeah. And everything just fit together in his plan. It's horrific, man, but it's so horrifically perfect. And it's like you're so like the first time you watch this movie, the first time I saw this movie, I was a kid, so I didn't really understand what happened. But like when I got older, I was like, wow, that's dark. And when you're dark, you get one of the best final lines in the history of film, bro. You get Morgan Freeman, a voiceover, saying, Ernest Hemingway once wrote, "The road is a fine place, and we're fighting for." I agree with the second part. They just cuts to black. I was like, dude, that's a mic drop.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my favorite ending. One of my favorite endings.
Of all the ways you could end this movie, that is, it's not even the best way. It's somehow beyond that.
Yes.
This is definitely one of those movies that if you haven't seen this movie yet, highly recommend it. You have to check this one out. It isn't as gory as it sounds to be because you never actually see any of the murders take place. What you see is the after effects of it. So you'll see the bodies and you'll see like blood splatters and stuff like that. So it's not as gruesome as some movies can be. In terms of like gore, it's somewhere in the middle there.
Right.
And
it shows you the end result. It doesn't show you how it got there.
Right. So people with like weaker stomachs and everything like that, this movie, you should be able to, for the most part, handle it. Because it's not too bad. And I highly recommend it. Like if you were to like read the description off Wikipedia, you'd be like, this has got to be like the goriest movie ever made. And it's like, it's pretty low on the scale in terms of that. It's just more the darker tones that everything falls behind.
Yeah, man. Like everything is constructed so perfectly in that ending. And when you hear about the behind the scenes of this film, it gets even more fascinating. Like the studio didn't want that dark ending. They did not want that dark ending. Yeah. And that ending was in the original draft. And Fincher was like, no, you gotta keep that ending. That's the whole point of the movie. Like you have to keep that ending as bleak as it is. Studio was not for it, but eventually they kept it. And yeah, Fincher was very adamant on that, man. And I can see why, because coming off your debut film that you weren't too happy with, Alien 3 was David Fincher's first movie. He doesn't like that movie. He disowned it. Coming off that and coming into this, I can understand Fincher going, I gotta have control of this. They have to keep that ending. You have to shoot the dog. The dog dies. You have to shoot the dog.
Yeah, if the dog doesn't die, then the rest of the movie was pointless.
Right. And that's true. I don't know how they could have rewrote this because it's perfect the way it is. If they rewrote it, it probably would still be a classic movie, but it'll be a classic movie with a possibly flawed ending if they rewrote it.
Well, I also love that when John Doe first turns himself in, the plea bargain to admit to all the murders and everything that he did was being able to bring Somerset and Mills to the location where they can find his last two victims, Envy and Wrath. And so while they're going there, the entire thing is, what did he do to these two people? That because it's shown in, I think it's during Sloth that he's been planning these out for years, you know, so because he had like pictures of him like every day over the course of a year as his body was deteriorating. And so you already know if there are two other bodies, they could really be there. And it turns out that it was, you know, John Doe and Mills were the last two victims in his weird psychotic play.
You know, yeah. Again, it works so well. You know, I heard that Denzel was initially supposed to have the role of Brad Pitt, but he turned it down. Now, I don't know if Denzel was kind of like, this movie is too dark. I can't do this. Or if he didn't think he could do it. I would have liked to see what he would do with Mills, but I don't know if I'd like to see Denzel in such a role that just comes to such a horrific end, you know? Just because we know Denzel to be the hero. And Brad's the hero in most movies too, but Brad can play the hero and the hero who gets got and the villain and such. He can do that. But like, I don't know if I could see Denzel do a movie like this just because it goes there. You know what I mean?
I could see it, honestly. I don't know if it would be better than Brad Pitt. I think they'd basically be in line with each other in terms of like performance for that kind of role and everything. So I don't think like we're missing out by having Brad Pitt in the role, and I don't think we wouldn't have been, you know, getting something better with Denzel, because absolutely between the three main people in this, Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, and Kevin Spacey, they all knock it out of the park, you know.
I agree. Like, listen, this is a very grim movie. but it's a grim movie done with surgical precision. Like this kind of film is what makes Fincher Fincher. He can take a grimy thriller like this and make it beautiful to look at in all of its disgustingness.
Absolutely.
He focuses on the gore, but he doesn't focus on the action of the gore. You know, he focuses on atmosphere and style and character.
Yeah, he focuses on the tone of the situation, not so much what happened.
Yeah, I'm all set on this one, man. This is one of my favorite films. I really can't find anything wrong with it. I give it a 5.
Yeah, it's a 5. If I were to try and find something wrong with this movie, it would literally be nitpicking because every scene just flows perfectly. The pacing is on point. You even have the situation where, you know, you have Somerset talking with Tracy, who is Mill's wife, and that whole conversation, it flows into the movie. It's even the scenes that you would go, well, maybe we could cut this. It's like, no, there's nothing in this that you could trim off.
I feel like the only way you can complain about this movie is if it's not your type of movie, or you go, Brad Pitt blinked too many times in this scene. He was only supposed to blink 5 times. He blinked 10. That's a notch.
Yeah, I can understand people that aren't into like crime thrillers or anything like that, looking at this and going, it's not my movie. That I perfectly understand. But for people that like, you know, crime podcasts and everything like that, if you haven't seen this movie, absolutely check it out. If you're a fan of like any kind of thriller, you'll love this one. Some people mark this as a horror movie. It's iffy.
It's horrific, but I don't know if I call it horror.
Yeah, I wouldn't really put it in the horror category, but I can see where people are coming from when they're like, it's a horror movie, because it does have a lot of dark tones to it that would fall under a horror movie in most circumstances.
Definitely. All right, I'm ready to move on. What about you?
I'm ready. So next on the list, we have the 2005 movie Zodiac, once again directed by David Fincher. This one follows basically a not note for note retelling of the events of the Zodiac killers murders, but very close to it. This is actually the first time I saw this movie. I've seen Se7en before and everything like that, but this one, just because it only focused on the Zodiac killer, it didn't really interest me too much.
Oh, this was your first time?
Yeah, this is the first time I checked this one out.
All right, cool.
And I had to say, knowing what I know about the Zodiac killer and everything like that, I even went back and confirmed a couple things like through Wikipedia. Is like, wait, was that all true? And it's like, yeah, that was all true with this movie. So we basically follow the police investigation going through the Zodiac killer as, you know, he's sending letters to the press. The FBI starts getting involved. The press decides whether it's going to publish the letters and publish the information they have about him, trying to decipher who he is using the what was it, the codes that he sends,
the letters, the letters he would send,
the ciphers that he was sending and everything. And it's a great movie. So basically the main cast is Jake Gyllenhaal as one of the, well, he starts as a cartoonist for one of the papers. Then we have Robert Downey Jr., who is an investigative reporter. We have Mark Ruffalo, who is a police officer. We have this one has a lot of other people in it. I'm trying to remember who else, but they're the main ones that are presented as following this entire situation of Zodiac killer. And it's done so well in presenting the information, because obviously it's still completely unknown who the Zodiac killer was. We can only go off the evidence and everything that was presented to us, you know, in reality in this movie. And it doesn't take a left field turn at all and be like, oh, this is totally the Zodiac killer. You know, we're gonna change history and find him and everything like that.
There are prime suspects.
Yes.
Yeah,
one of them being Lee Allen or Arthur
Yes.
Lee Allen, who in reality was the prime suspect when it came to the Zodiac killer. And everything presented in this movie is actually accurate to the proof and the investigations and the evidence they found against him. But still, they couldn't pin him because they didn't have any exact evidence that linked to him, such as fingerprints, DNA matches, or handwriting matches. But everything else basically led to it being him. And I believe still to this day, most people that were on that case and even in the FBI files, he is still the only prime suspect that they have for the being the Zodiac killer.
Yeah. Man, I've only seen this movie maybe I think I want to say twice, but I had just saw this for the first time not too long ago because like the people who would talk to me know I liked Fincher, but Zodiac was always one of those films that I'm like, I'll get to it. Yeah, I'll get to it. But everybody be like, dude, that's probably his best movie. I'm like, how dare you down talk Fight Club?
Yeah.
Like how dare you down talk Seven? Be like, dude, I'm telling you, Zodiac is great. And everybody would just tell me it's a great movie. And I'm like, but they never catch him in the end. So what's the point of me? What's the point of the movie? But I finally sat down and watched it one day, and I'm like, dude, this is like, I think one critic said this is David Fincher's most involving film, meaning he, like you said, the film is detailed and accurate to a T. And Fincher takes all of this information. I don't want to say all of the information because you can't pack a whole investigation in one movie, but he takes the important parts, makes it linear, makes it make sense to us, and just like the film gives you anxiety as the main character, Jake Gyllenhaal plays, in trying to figure out who is this guy. There's something we're missing. I like how the film is as anxious as its protagonist.
Oh yeah, because at the same time, we don't know how close they ever got to finding him. For all we know, the Zodiac killer was never even a suspect. Because I like how when they're going through the evidence and everything with the handwriting expert, and he's like, I've cleared 200 names of people that are definitely not him and everything like that. One of them being Lee Allen. And going through it and everything and being like, look, I understand the circumstantial evidence you have and everything, but looking at these, you don't change your handwriting and stuff like that. Once you have it in your mind, this is how you write an R. You'll always write an R that way. It might change a little over time, but the strokes are going to stay the same.
Right.
And being able to like be that confident in it as well. And even to this day, he still, I believe, says that to his knowledge and his expertise, it still isn't him because of those matches didn't make it. And nothing or for anybody that came across his desk was even close that he had that thought of, well, it might be this person. It was always, it's not. No, we're not on the right track. And
Yeah.
you see that in this movie where they're all struggling to try and figure it out. And you see the tension behind them all as they're doing this and risking their lives to do it as well, because it's public knowledge that these police officers and these newspaper are, reporters and everything are on this case to try and find out who he is. And it's a game of cat and mouse to him.
Dude, I love what can you not love about this movie? But I like how it starts off. I like how the actual scenes of people being killed or severely harmed by the Zodiac killer, they're filmed like a horror film. Like they're filmed like a slasher, but they're not done in a crude way. Like they're done in very cold, they're showing a very cold objective manner in how these people were killed. And I like the way Fincher tracks his camera. I like how he kind of like keeps the audience on pause of what's going on. But I also wanted to say I like the transitions throughout this film. Like you see each of these characters who are real people like change throughout the course of this investigation. Like you see, Robert Downey Jr., who's like the man in the office, and you see him towards the end of the investigation kind of like be a shadow of himself. He's playing the ping pong game at home, and Jake Gyllenhaal comes over there and visits him, and he's just a shadow of himself, man. He's not the kind of like cocky guy he was in the 60s in the newspaper room. Jake Gyllenhaal has a family, but he becomes more and more obsessed with it to the point where he tells his wife, I gotta go. Like I can't.
Yeah, I can't let this go. I have a new lead. This could be it. This could be the end of this, investigation. I gotta go. And it causes him losing his family.
Yeah, it does. It's obsession.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like how you transition through all that. And there's one scene in particular that really struck me. It's like you got the camera and it tilts up to a building that's being built, and you hear Marvin Gaye infused in with other artists of the time as we're transitioning into a new era. And I was like, man, that's so genius. Like I like how like Fincher keeps the flow going here, but at the same time keeps it very methodical and analytical at the same time. It doesn't insult the audience intelligence and doesn't appear to be smarter than the audience.
Right. I mean, this is a dialogue heavy kind of thing because you can't show it from the perspective of the Zodiac killer. You basically have to explain it from the eyes of these people that are reading it from like a newspaper or getting a letter in the mail. This is one of those movies where it's harder to do a show don't tell kind of level of storytelling. But at the same time, yeah, like you said, it doesn't talk down to the audience.
This is why a certain director is key, because I think in any kind of director's hands, this will come off as boring. If it wasn't a series, if it wasn't like a true crime docu-series, it would come off as a little boring. But I think in Fincher's hands, he knows how to make it flow. He says, okay, this is going to be talkative, but we're going to keep the audience engaged with the talkative. We're going to have the right shots and the right angles on faces. Dude, the interrogation of Arthur Lee Allen is so tense, but like nothing is happening. But it's John Carroll Lynch facial expression and their reactions to him that make it so tense. Like this guy seems like he could be actually dangerous.
Oh yeah. Even though they're basically in a room with somebody that they suspect is the Zodiac killer.
Right.
And he has such a calm demeanor about him when he's answering these questions. And it's like he practiced these answers and everything. And you're just like, it's gotta be him. There's no other way than it has to be him. There's no other possible way that everything could line up so circumstantially that it isn't. And the movie does a good job of kind of backing away from it a little bit and not being like, look, it's definitely this guy. But at the same time, they had to present all the information, and all the information does lead to him.
Yeah. Well, I don't think the movie backs away from it being him. I think the movie stays objective.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It stays objective. Okay. It doesn't like fold in and this becomes like a hit piece on Arthur Lee Allen saying you're definitely the Zodiac killer, directed by David Fincher. It's a Zodiac movie where he is a large part of it, but it doesn't zone in just on him.
Yeah, absolutely. What can you say about the cast of this movie, man? Everybody just brings it. Like, everyone is on point in this one. You got RDJ in his element. I want to say pre-Iron Man, or was this after Iron Man 1?
This was pre-Iron Man. This might have come out when they were like starting to get him on board to be in Iron Man.
Okay, yeah. Everyone's on their A game. Jake, Mark, who ironically, all three of those guys ended up in the MCU.
Yeah.
John Carroll Lynch killed it as Arthur Lee Allen. Like they just so many great actors in this movie. I want to say now how we build up towards the climax is I like the climax a lot because I feel like it takes interesting choices. Again, all this stuff happened, but I like how it's presented to us in the order it's presented to us. Like I like that one scene with Jake Gyllenhaal and Arthur Lee Allen's store. And they kind of have that look with each other. They exchange that look. And because it's like he thinks this is the guy. Like he says, man, I know in my bones he's the guy. And like the way Arthur Lee Allen looks at him, like he kind of looks down a little bit, kind of like he doesn't want to look him in the eye because I don't know, maybe he's nervous, maybe he doesn't want to give off any kind of non-verbal cues, like, okay, I'm the guy, but I'm not gonna let you look at you a certain way, let you know. It's hard for me to put into words. You have to watch the scene to understand. But the way,
it basically, every time that we see Arthur on screen, he's very cocky about himself, very much in the same way that the Zodiac killer is in his letters, where he's basically taunting the police and you won't find me, you'll never be able to find me and everything like that. And that's one of those moments where we get to see Arthur kind of in a different light, where he's not in full control of whatever situation's about to happen there. The only other time we see that is when the police are raiding his home and he like pulls up and he literally gets out of his car and he has 3 officers walking outside of his home.
Yeah. It ends, this film ends on a very interesting note. And I think it's interesting because, well, I guess the transition it has, like you have Jimmy Simpson, you have his character, sitting in the interrogation room. I love how that ends where it starts pretty much, with the because he was like the first victim, right?
So he wasn't the first victim. I think he was the one that was tied up.
Right. You're right.
Yeah, he was the one that was tied up and stabbed, thought to death, but he had survived it. Right.
So he's in the interrogation room and he's talking and he sees the mugshot and it was Arthur Lee Allen. And I like how I don't know if it's a music score or if it's dead silent, but I like how he looks at, like, he not at the camera, but he looks at the guy. He says, I have no doubt in my mind, that's the man who tried to kill me. And then the film just cuts to black with the epilogue text of what happened and everything. And I was like, that's interesting. Like, that's a way to leave things open-ended, but have a conclusion. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, you got to end it some way, especially considering this is a story of, a killer that was still to this day never confirmed or found. And I love how they do the end blurb where they go, following his testimony on like finding that person, or to selecting out Arthur's photo in the lineup. Following that, Arthur had a fatal heart attack before the police could ever question him again regarding this new information. And
isn't that something?
Yeah.
Like right before they come see him, the heart gives out.
I still wish that there'd be some kind of like documented evidence that for sure it was him or something, because now that he's gone, that's a mystery that is going to be almost impossible to solve now, because we'll never be able to have his word of his testimony saying yes. But at the same time, if it wasn't him, whoever it is, it's probably still dead by now. That the mystery is going to be on forever. It's kind of like the story of Jack the Ripper. It's going to forever be a legend that will never be solved, just because time has passed in the realm that it's actually a solvable case.
Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, man, this is a great true crime film. I feel like Fincher, for what he does, he keeps it interesting. It's a long film. It can at some points feel like that, but it's like you're never not on its wavelength. You're following the investigation as they're conducting it. You're seeing the letters come in as they come in. I'll never say this film is boring. It does have some moments where there are meaningfully slow-paced moments, but I don't think it's a slow film at all. I would I give this a 4.5.
Yeah, I agree. This is a 4.5. And same thing, like this movie was one that was kind of always on like the, I wouldn't even say this movie was really on my list of movies to check out because the Zodiac killer wasn't a thing that really interested me.
Same.
You know, how could this movie do it? Yeah, David Fincher's behind it, but the topic and everything behind it just wasn't anything for me. And this movie sucked me into it. You know, I now know a whole lot about the Zodiac killer, even outside of this movie, because I just was like, there's no way that that's how it happened. And then going back and being like, that is how it happened. It actually happened a lot crazier than that. And
yeah, I want to read Robert Grayson's book. Like they say the
Yeah.
book is great. And I know it is, it's kind of biased because it's coming from his perspective, but I still want to read it. I feel like it'll be an engaging read. Yeah, I agree. I feel like this film is great for what it is. Yeah, you got it. You got. I see why people call it Fincher's best film because
Mhm.
it takes he's putting a lot in here and he's making
Oh,
it. He translates it well to the audience. I don't know if I call it his best film, but I know why people say that. He puts a lot in here. I feel like this is the best true crime film David Fincher could make. And I feel like that's what this is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and when it comes to like a movie based off of the Zodiac killer, this is the best way that it could be done. You
Mhm.
know, it was entertaining, it was factual, and it didn't hone in on a very like it didn't hone in as a hit piece against the killer either. You know,
It wasn't exploitative.
right.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, man. What can we say about the man Fincher, man? He makes his films cold and affecting at the same time. Like I don't think it's possible for him to make a cold, distant film without some emotion linked in. Like when you look at these films, Fight Club, The Game, Gone Girl, there's always some emotion in there, even with something like this that's analytical about like a detailed investigation to an unknown killer. There's still
mhm.
some emotion in there. You know what I mean?
I like how you left out Alien 3.
See, I never saw that one.
Oh,
I've been
really?
meaning to watch that movie. Have you?
Yeah, that one's that's a bad one.
See, I've heard different things. I've heard it's directed well, but the story is crap. I'll watch it one day.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the directing isn't bad on that one, but
Mhm.
it's hard to save that movie. I don't think anybody could save that movie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I'd say maybe because Make was good when we saw Make. Make was good. That's probably one of my least favorite Fincher films, but I
Mhm.
appreciate it. You know, I appreciate the effort that went into it. But period. I guess we're giving it to 7.
Yeah, Se7en wins out. Both of these movies are phenomenal, but
Right.
Se7en is a movie from 1995 that holds up today. Like if that came into theaters today, it would still be gaining the same recognition it
Oh
got
yeah.
before.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Absolutely.
Not only that, but I think, ironically, that movie when it released in 1955 or 1995 was the 7th highest grossing movie of that year as well.
When at the MTV Awards, when I believe he either won Best Movie or Best Director, David Fincher gave a speech. He was like, "Oh, thank you. You know, somebody once told me like, this movie 7 sounds like an MTV movie. What's wrong with that?" And that was
Mm.
his speech. And I
Oh,
was like, that's kind of legendary in a way. That makes
right.
sense because the MTV movies of that era were great. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. All right, man. So anything you've been watching lately? I've seen a few
So
things.
I've been actually binging some comedy specials lately. Watching Shaun of the Dead previously. I decided to check into some more UK comedians and everything like that. So I've been doing a lot of that.
Who are the people?
So one that I just finished watching was the new Randy Feltface, who is a puppet. It's a purple puppet that is puppeteered by a comedian
Hmm.
to tell absurd stories and jokes from the perspective of a puppet, more or less. Uh, then I'm trying to remember, James Acaster was one of the ones that I watched recently. Greg Davies was one.
Mm.
I've just been going through a bunch of like UK comedian specials that came out in the last like year or two that are on Netflix and stuff.
I think the only UK comedians I know are Ricky Gervais, of course, and there's the
Mhm.
one guy that does the roast, Jimmy Olsen, I think. Jimmy somebody.
Jimmy Carr?
Jimmy Carr. There you go.
Yeah.
Jimmy Carr.
Okay.
Yeah, I love Jimmy Carr. He makes me laugh.
Oh, Jimmy Carr's great.
Yeah, and I don't know if he's a talk show host, but is Graham Norton a comedian?
Yeah, he's a comedian. He basically started out the same way as like think of a Stephen Colbert or
Right,
something
right.
like that, where he was a comedian that kind of started getting his own talk show and everything.
Yeah, I like him. I like him. I like Craig Ferguson.
Oh, Craig Ferguson's great.
Oh, he's Scottish though. He's not really British, right?
You know what? It's overseas comedy. It's all one country over there.
He's over there. He's
Yeah,
somewhere.
Not American. That's
right. Yeah, I like those guys. Those guys I mentioned. Dude, I had me a treat at the movies this past week. I told you I'm back. I told you I'm back to going to see movies.
Wait. Let me guess. You went and said Lyle Crocodile a second time.
You know, it was sold out, man. So I had to go settle for Smile.
Okay.
I went and saw Smile and Barbarian, man.
How was Smile? That one's still like a curious one on my list.
Smile is actually a pretty solid horror film.
Okay.
It's actually pretty solid. It has some good jump scares in it. A nice grim storyline. For a film where a smile is terrifying, it's not a smiling time. It's not a smiling good time at all.
Right. Yeah. I expect.
It's good, man. I enjoyed it. I would honestly give it a 3.5 out of 5.
Okay.
It was a solid film. It did its job well. Parker Finn is very good at jump scares. There's a very good storyline about trauma in there. Yeah, it's grim though. It was more grim than I expected it to be. I'd say if you want to check it out on streaming or check it out in theaters, you'll get your money's worth.
Okay.
It's a good movie. So Sosia Bacon, I believe is the main actor's name. Kevin Bacon's daughter. I think that's her name. Don't quote me, but she does a great job in the main role. Because basically this woman is dealing with something that was traumatizing to her and is affecting her life. And she doesn't know how to deal with this like little paranoia she has about a smile. And like I want to tell you what happens without telling you what happens, but basically her character experienced something traumatic with a patient. And ever since then, she's been seeing the same kind of disturbing visions her patient saw at the time of when the traumatic thing happened. And it plays it very well. Sosie Bacon is her name. Yeah, she did great, man. She was pretty awesome. But Barbarian, man, let me tell you about this film, dude. This is a great American horror film, dude. I mean, it's so unpredictable. The structure is non-linear, but it's done so well, man. And being that I think these are both debut films for their directors, Smile and Barbarian. Both directors did a great job. I like Barbarian a lot more for different reasons, but basically, Barbarian starts off with a woman. Have you heard of this movie?
I have heard of this movie.
Okay, so it starts off with a woman that gets an Airbnb, and it turns out somebody's already in the house, somebody who's already renting out the house, and there's a bit of a mix-up, and he's like, "Listen, I already got a reservation here," and she's like, "Oh, okay, well, I had a reservation here." So until she finds a new place, he says, "Do you want to come in? You could just lay on the couch, stay on the couch until you find a new reservation." Now, granted, as it should be, she's a little wary of this guy because she's like, I don't know this guy. I don't know if I should come in this house with him. It's played by Bill Skarsgård, so you know.
Right. Who is a great, like, creepy kind of like performer.
In this one, he toes the line so well as to whether she should go, should this character trust him or not? He's turned on the kind of like cute guy, but he's also turned on the guy that might have some bodies in the basement kind of vibe.
Right.
But I love how the film it teases you with what's going to happen with this guy. Like, is he all in the up and up? And then the film just veers into a direction you didn't expect it to veer to, unless you've seen the previews or read some reviews.
Right. I remember seeing the previews for this one. It looks like it's, it starts off as the, oh no, it's an Airbnb horror thing too. This is a psychological trauma story.
I don't know if well, some scenes might make you a little traumatized. Like,
Right.
dude, that's so effed up. But the movie is played so well. Like, there's such great humor and horror in this film, dude. Like, it's such a well-made American horror film. And Justin Long's character, oh man, I want to tell you so much about him. But just he's the guy you love to hate in this movie. His performance is so good, dude. I was like, this is the Justin Long I missed from Jeepers Creepers 1. Like, he is so good in this movie. And the main Bill is good. The main actress, she's good too. But dude, I can't tell you much without ruining it. But I love Barbarian, man. I give that movie a 5 out of 5.
Okay. That one was on my list to check out because I remember seeing a trailer for it and going, okay, so it's like an Airbnb kind of horror movie of, is this a killer? And then it just kind of falls off the rail. Based on the trailer, I could not tell you what this movie is supposed to be.
And that's
to be honest,
that's a good thing. All you need to know is that there's two people of a mistaken Airbnb reservation, and there's a basement, and there's Justin Long.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know, man.
What's it with Justin Long in basements when he appears in movies?
I don't know, man. I don't know, but the movie is great. And I think it was filmed in Detroit because it's set in Detroit.
Yeah, I know it's set in Detroit. That's one of the reasons that got on my radar in the first place is it was like a Detroit movie.
And dude, it kind of has like that Candyman feel about it, where it's making like a social commentary, because the house is in Brightmoor, and if you know Brightmoor is kind of like a bad neighborhood. But I like how they make it seem like no, that's not the hood. That's a terrible neighborhood. Yeah, there might be monsters there. Like I like the commentary that the film gives. Like it's really great, dude.
Yeah, I've seen a couple comments on the movie and stuff like that. It definitely is on my radar. It's definitely one that I'll check out when streaming comes, because it's one of those movies that always has like the stupidest times when it comes to the theaters around here. That I'd basically have to take a day off work, or I'd have to be like, well, tomorrow's gonna suck trying to wake up because I'm gonna go to the 11 p.m. showing of this movie.
Oh, listen, it is worth it for this one. It's so great.
Okay.
But another film I saw that kind of surprised me at how good it was, Halloween Ends.
You're not going to be able to sell me on this one, but go ahead.
Listen, dude, I did not like Halloween Kills. I thought that was a bad sequel. The first one was okay. The first reboot of this trilogy was fine. It was fine. But this film, I feel like they needed to throw they not a home run, but they needed to do something very quick and fast to get over the disaster that was Kills. So they added in some character-driven plot to it that wasn't that bad.
Okay.
Like there's some character-driven story here that's not that bad, but I think the real criticism that comes from this film is that, dude, if they were gonna go this way with this movie, why wasn't it like this from the start of the trilogy? From the start of the trilogy, you just got Michael Myers coming back to kill old lady Laurie Strode, in their face off. Now we got this character-driven stuff that came out of nowhere. The trilogy as a whole is very tonally dissonant. It's very tonally off, and I understand that, but I feel like they need to throw a haymaker to get over how bad and disappointing Kills was. And I think Ends is a solid end to this trilogy.
I feel like you just described the most recent Star Wars trilogy. The first one, when they were doing it, it was pretty good. It was okay and everything. The second one was just terrible. And the third one just sounded like an apology about the second one.
Not at all. I like Last Jedi. I did not like The Rise of Skywalker. I haven't heard any positive things about The Rise of Skywalker.
I'm sure they're out there somewhere.
Okay, yeah, you got to dig into like the dark web to find them. I see people talk. I see people talk highly of The Last Jedi because Ryan Johnson. I don't see people talk good about Rise of Skywalker. What I usually see when you see blurbs and you search things, you go, Kylo Ren falling in love with her. What? Like what happened to the girl Finn liked? What happened to this? Like it's always questions.
What happened to the entire story they were telling?
Right. Hey, one of the funniest things I heard, just to steer off in Star Wars, when we were talking about Carrie Fisher in The Last Jedi, I said, "Hey man, how did you like Carrie Fisher in The Last Jedi?" He's like, "What, Mary Poppins?" I mean, he's he says, "What are you talking about? No, I did not like that." Oh man, I thought that was funny. Yeah, man, but Halloween Ends, I give that a solid 3.5.
Okay.
I think it was a nice closeout to the trilogy. I don't want to see Jamie Lee Curtis in no more Halloween films. It's over. I know they're gonna make more Michael Myers.
Oh, of course
films.
they will.
It's a franchise, but I don't want to see her in no more. I would like to see Nev Campbell in more Scream films, but Jamie, it's over.
Yeah,
no more. And she says she's done, but
at the same time, though, eventually that next check will come, and it's next movie. Let's do it. But yeah, I don't think anything could convince me to start watching those movies again, because it's just,
if Michael Myers isn't your thing, I wouldn't recommend it. I just thought for the trilogy we were given, I thought it was a nice endpoint. I thought it was a nice conclusion. I said, okay, you guys really made up. You made up in my eyes.
You guys tried on this one.
Right. There wasn't too many hands in the editing bay in this film.
Right.
You could tell David Gordon Green was like, all right, everyone get out. I'm going to make the film I want to make this time. My name is on this.
Our Halloween Kills did so bad that they were just like, we don't want to just put like the skeleton crew on that one. We don't want to put anything big, and that ended up helping it.
Yeah, it looks like it has a good budget. Like it looked like it had a good budget. But I hear what you're saying. Hey man, have you seen this Dahmer movie? This Dahmer series on Netflix? Everyone keeps talking about it.
No, I want to check it out. I just haven't sat down for it, because I heard that it's one of those series that once you start watching it, you're just going to binge it. You're not going to be able to just pause and be like, oh, that was a good episode. Let's, go wash the dishes and I'll come back and watch episode 2. It's right. No, there goes your day.
I like Evan Peters as an actor. I think he's very good. He's very good at creepy roles too.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I want to watch a series about Dahmer, man. Like, I feel like I already know Jeffrey Dahmer, and I feel like, so I've heard some criticism say it is respectful to the victims. I've heard some criticism say it's exploitative in some episodes. I don't know if I want to watch something that dark, and that's just me. I'm sure it is good, but it's just not for me.
Yeah, it's on my list. Eventually I will check it out, but I haven't found that day where I can be like, okay, I don't have anything else I have to do. I can just lock the doors, sit down, turn off my phone so nobody can bother me, and just start episode 1.
Dude, man, what about your boy? You hear about Bill Murray?
No.
So Aziz Ansari has a film coming out. It's his feature-length directorial debut.
That I heard about. Yes. That was a while ago though.
Yeah. Well, it is recent. It is recent since we last spoke. But basically Bill Murray got kicked off the film. And now more details have come out where apparently the reason why he got kicked off, the allegations, as they would say, is that there was a crew member. I don't know if it was a cast member. I think it was a crew member that I guess he had thought she was flirting with him, but he kind of forcibly gave her a kiss, and it was a little over the top, and it was unwanted pretty much. And the production was like, oh hell no, we're not. We don't want to come up under any kind of Hollywood Reporter article like after we've already released this film. So like let's just nip this in the bud now and get him off. And now production has stopped
Well,
because
production stopped when it happened and everything, and then he was booted. He apologized. He kind of admitted that he was wrong and everything like that. And then production
right.
began again without him.
Mhm.
And a lot of that was because Aziz Ansari was Me Too'd in basically he had a bad date and he got Me Too'd for it.
Wait, whoa, that was way
I
back
know,
there.
but at the same time, because of that whole thing,
They were
that's
filming it
why
back
this
then.
got no, this wasn't being filmed back then, but
Right.
because Aziz is very cautious on stuff like this now.
Okay.
That's why like production entirely stopped. It wasn't just let's boot Bill from it and keep going. It was we need to put a hard stop here. We gotta
Being mortal, not being there. Okay, I got you. I got you. Hey, this is funny because I can picture Aziz in his own way going, all right, let's calm down, man. Already went through this before.
I'm dealing with this again.
Right. Let's just calm down. We'll get back to the movie later.
Oh,
It's like my PR agent told me you got to give these things 3 months and then people will forget about them.
right.
Then we
Well,
can start
it's
shooting.
the internet. Give it 2 weeks and everybody will forget about it.
Right. Yeah, I see this happening. Aziz, he's that meme where the Vietnam flashbacks are going off and you're closing in on somebody's head and they're getting bad flashbacks. Like, okay, let's just calm down, man. We'll get back to this in a minute.
Right. Everything's going to be okay. We're just going to take a breather. We're going to step away from the box.
Right. Yeah. So that's what's going on. I had heard something. I don't know how true this is. It could be just a rumor, but I think I heard something about Cartoon Network being done for.
So no, it's Cartoon Network Studios is being merged into WB Animation. So basically, Cartoon Network Studios was the animation studio behind a lot of like Cartoon Network's biggest shows. Like when you think back to like our day, Dexter's Lab, Kids Next Door, Powerpuff Girls, basically everything was done by either Hanna-Barbera or Cartoon Network Studios. And now Cartoon Network Studios is being merged into WB Animation. So it's not really dying, but it's no longer going to exist as Cartoon Network Studios.
Okay, so Cartoon Network channels thing, but
Yes.
WB is taking over.
WB Animation is going to be like the new house for like all the animation work for those shows, which WB Animation was already taking over some of it. Like I want to say a good portion of the shows were already being worked on by like WB Animation, like Teen Titans Go, and I'm trying to think. There's a couple others. I really don't know what's on Cartoon Network these days outside of like Adult Swim. So,
dude, past regular show, Adventure Time and Infinity Train, I don't either.
Yeah, well, none of those are going on anymore either. So,
right, I'm way out of touch, man. Yeah,
I'm in the same area. All I know is Teen Titans Go is still on the air because people complain about it constantly. That's all I know.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, is that good news?
I don't consider it to be good news because at the same time, HBO is cutting things left and right. So who knows what cuts this will lead to with them just going. Because right now they're phrasing it as, look, it's all going to be under one studio now. So it'll be a lot easier for like the artists and, the directors and the writing to, be on the same page for everything instead of it being in multiple places. But in reality, it's like, okay, but how many people are getting cut now because they're not bringing them over to WB Animation from Cartoon Network Studios? And yeah, so they're phrasing it to be like this is going to be like the greatest thing ever for animation, but really it's just HBO trying to find some way to cut their taxes some more, I guess.
Yeah, it's a different time, boy. When commerce would take over, you wouldn't mind because there was still an artistic license in effect. Now it's like commerce is taking over and now we're just stuck with 90 Day Fiancés, the single life after the single life, and like the 30 I forgot the other one, but yeah, dude, it's crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy. I don't know how this merge is gonna work out for HBO Max, because now I hear that Paramount and Showtime are linking up, which I don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair because it's both under Paramount.
Right.
I hear that Disney Plus could eventually be merging Hulu into their library, which I don't mind.
That one I don't think is going to happen as much because Hulu has a lot of licensing rights for things that aren't under the Disney Fox umbrella, and I think they want to try and like keep them separated because they could lose that licensing otherwise.
Okay. Well, maybe you're right. It's just a different time right now. And I know we always talk about streaming and stuff. I was gonna bring something else up to you. So I heard that Marvel had like a short film called like Werewolf by Night or something.
Yes, their Halloween special to do their introduction into like the horror genre of the Marvel comics and everything. Werewolf by Night is actually a comic that was taking place in like the same kind of thing as like Dracula, werewolves, Frankenstein are all like a part of the MCU in a way.
Okay.
And this movie is kind of introducing that a little bit into the MCU. Or not movie, it is a short.
Okay, all right. I actually heard that I heard people praise this. They said like, man, Marvel should do some more of these. This was very artistic, very entertaining.
It doesn't have the Marvel formula feel to it.
Hmm.
I think because it was a low stakes kind of thing where if it didn't work out, nobody's going to remember it, but
Hmm.
it did work out. It's kind of the same as Moon Knight, where they kind of just let it be its own thing without forcing it to tie in with everything else.
Yeah,
And I think that worked.
I heard that series is good. I still need to check that out.
Oh yeah, I highly recommend that one. Even She-Hulk, I think, kind of did its own little thing and everything, and I think that one turned out pretty well.
There are so many guys mad at that show, and I'm like, is it really just because it's a female hero? Like, because I try to understand, like, okay, Megan Thee Stallion, that seems kind of dumb to me too, but I'm like, is that the only reason y'all don't like the show? Because yeah, I don't know.
The best part is the people that are like upset with it are like, this isn't like the She-Hulk that they're trying to ruin comic book. It's like clearly you haven't read a She-Hulk comic in the last 15 years because this series is dead on accurate to the comedy and everything that those comics have. Like the She-Hulk comics are really fun comics because she does break the fourth wall. It does make a lot of jokes about things that are in the comics and everything, like from a legal standpoint. It's and people are like, oh, it's woke culture and a thing. It's like, no, it's not. It's
This is literally how the comic is.
this is literally how the comics have been for the last like 15 years. This is before woke culture was a word. The comics were in this kind of way. Yeah, I always love that because when people like point out, yeah, if Avatar: The Last Airbender came out today, people would call it a woke cartoon because of how many cultures and how many different people with like different disabilities and everything are seen as heroes in that world.
Possibly.
Well, yeah, one of the main characters is a blind little girl that is one of the strongest people in the universe and acts as the trainer for the main protagonist for 1/4 of his powers.
Mm. Yeah, possibly. No, you're right. You're right. It could be. Yeah, I agree with you. I that is on my list too. I kind of been tapped out of Marvel lately.
Yeah.
But and they took Blade off the schedule.
No, it got moved.
They don't have a confirmed date anymore.
No, wait. No.
I'm telling you, they said that they didn't say it's canceled, but they said in so many words, we're just gonna push it back to that date. Like
No, wait, hold on.
the director dropped out. They say creative differences or scheduling or something. And I got a feeling in my bones. I don't want to be pessimistic, but I think Mahershala might be like, all right, guys, peace out. because I don't know, man. I don't know.
I doubt he's going to piece out on it, but at the same time, yeah, it did get pushed back a year. It's now in 2024, scheduled for September of 2024.
Ain't nobody got time for that, man.
Again, I think we've talked about this on previous episodes and everything like that. I don't care what's coming out in 2 years. I want to know what's coming out next year.
Exactly. Okay, two more things I want to talk about. They just happen to be Marvel related, but they're good. TJ Miller and Ryan Reynolds. So did you hear about that little like spat or for a reason why he was kind of mad at Ryan?
No, I know TJ Miller was going through a lot of stuff after his what was it, brain tumor he had?
Oh, I don't know about the brain tumor, but I know about the allegations and like kind of like the quote unquote cancellation that came his way.
Oh, he had that too, but he also had some medical thing come up.
Oh, I didn't hear about that. That's sad.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, he was saying that, he got, for a minute, he was kind of mad at Ryan because Ryan Reynolds, there was one moment on the set of Deadpool 2 where he made a joke or something that was in regards to his character. And basically, in so many words, said like, oh, yeah, you're just the one character that's here to help us make up for lost time until we get to the next scene. Like, basically, he was like dogging him through his interpretation. I don't know if it really happened. But anyway, after that, he said Ryan Reynolds reached out to him and they talked, and that they made up, so to speak. But dude, they're finally bringing Wolverine into a Deadpool.
Yeah, that was huge news when they showed that trailer.
Yeah, I don't know how. I'm happy because there's been so many jokes about it, like in the movies. But I kind of thought Logan was the end of the road, man.
This takes place before Logan, so Logan still takes place at like the end of like the X-Men kind of timeline.
All right, man. If you want to make that excuse, that's fine.
I'm going to use whatever excuse I can. I want to see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine again in a Deadpool movie. I don't care. I will leap over every fence that you try and put up. Is this doesn't make sense? I don't care. I'm going to enjoy that movie. God damn it.
Logan was the end of the road, man. That was a great close off point. Like it
was, and I can't wait to see him come back now.
Like Brad is that type of fan. That's like, listen. Through timeline continuity's sake, this takes place about 4.5 hours before this plot line in Days of Future Past. I'm like, dude, come on, man.
I mean, technically, we have the multiverse where everything is possible at the same time. So this Logan could be from a different universe. I will jump over whatever goalposts you start setting down for this one. I want it to happen. Damn it! You can't take this from me.
Man. All right. Well, there it is, folks. I'm looking forward to it when it comes out. Whatever it will be. But that's pretty much it, man. It's been another great episode of Double Feature Versus. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please always remember to watch good movies, have fun, and enjoy the theater. Peace.